What's interesting with robotics is some of robotics, all of robotics is not keeping up with how fast AI is moving. And that's because robotics is based on
Welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurship Xposed, hosted by your guy Beez. And today we have another great guest, as always, right? So we talk about everything related to entrepreneurship, but with a twist of business acquisitions. I'm very curious to see how I'm gonna, frame this conversation around business acquisitions as well. But we have an expert in the field of AI and advanced robotics today. Kevin Surace, how are you doing today, sir?
I am great, and I know we're going to pull this all together because I've started, a dozen businesses or so, and had some successes and crushed some. So it's all part of entrepreneurship.
Definitely. First of all, I love your enthusiasm. That's what I love. I love the energy. I know you're passionate about what you your expertise. So I see it on your face right there, and I love it, man.
Hey, I'll add another thing. Something you didn't know. 32 acquisitions. I've been involved in 32 acquisitions, not LBOs, but didn't matter. They were acquisitions, mostly in the tech world. And so we can talk about anything you want.
I'm going to be nerding out today. We get both of the tech world and the acquisition
and the business world, yeah.
I love it. Well, welcome today, sir. Thank you for joining us. Tell the people a little bit more about your background so we can get started.
Oh, my. Where do I start? Let's see. A long time ago, I went to Silicon Valley after college, right? And decided to get into tech. I went to college for half tech and half music, actually. I had a concentration in music, and which I got to participate in. But I went into tech, and that turned out to, look, tech is a good thing. If you get into tech and make a mark there, it's good, right? No question. And so started in semiconductors and just kept moving on and doing different things, including the very first cellular data phone, which was called Air Communicator, the early 1990s. And I learned something from that. So we had this amazing cellular data phone 15 years before the iPhone. And it had grave limitations. And the grave limitations were while you were driving, you couldn't use the darn thing because you couldn't look at anything. And in a larger screen, you had to plug it into your notebook to get the larger screen and all of that. And so it could receive data, but driving was a problem. So then when we sold that, I went to a company called General Magic, public company at the time. And General Magic also had some handheld devices. They were very interesting, but those weren't taking off. And so we had an opportunity to say, how do we solve the real pain point? You know what the real pain point was? People were driving and they couldn't get their email at the time, faxes, things like this. And so that's what got me into AI, because we invented the very first AI-based virtual assistants.
I heard about this. I was so excited. When I saw that, I was like, wait a minute. Tell that story. Elaborate on that story.
So, I always like to invent. I've got 94 patents worldwide, right? That's a lot of patents. Oh, and I didn't get up every morning and say, I want a patent. What I did is say, here's a real problem. Like, I'm driving and I can't access my data and I've got to drive for 2 hours. What do I do? So what we did is we said, what would happen if we had a virtual assistant? Later became everything we know about virtual assistants, from Siri to Alexa, all based on this technology. And the technology was two big, very important inventions. One, how do we create a person? Her name was Mary, by the way. In fact, her actual name in real life is Mary Mack. True statement.
Really?
Mary Mack. She is Miss Mary Mack. And she was the person that we used to record all of the responses, thousands and thousands and thousands, right? And we'd concatenate them together so that she would sound real. And I'd say, hey, Mary, can you get my email? Of course, I would love to get your email, Kevin. I mean, it's uncanny. Okay, this is 1998. 1998. That's 25 years ago. So we built all the underpinnings of what would become licensed to Siri and Apple and Amazon and Google and Microsoft and everybody else. Very, very powerful technology. And we had to do some other things around vectorizing data, sending it to the network, getting the data back, and then turning it into a response. So there were some really interesting breakthroughs, including...
All right, guys, before we get into the full episode of Entrepreneurship Exposed, I just want to take a moment to thank you all for supporting this channel. This channel means so much to me. You all mean so much to me, because this information is the type of things that I wish that I knew when I was like 17 years old, right? We're talking about wealth creation strategies, not plays. Never talking about, hey, we could run this quick play to make some quick money. This is all about sustainable strategies that won't go anywhere. Whatever else you may be doing, this information will supplement it and help you take it to a whole nother level. So what I would love to ask each and every one of you is if you could like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, do all of that for me. It supports the channel, it helps us to grow, helps us to get this information out to more people so that we could change more lives. So thank you again for supporting. Make sure that whatever you see in here, whatever you learn in here, that you go and execute on it. And then drop a comment and let me know how it went out for you. Hopefully I'll even see you in the BBI where I teach how to acquire businesses and everything about entrepreneurship. Let's go.
Including hiring a team of linguists that had to listen to what people were saying, anonymized, but they had to because they said, how would we ever improve the system? So you had to listen to what people said and you go, oh my, we never thought they'd say, I want my email now, you darn thing, you know? So, and that means give me my email, right? Yeah. So we played lots of tricks and we learned so much. We had millions of people on it. It became GM OnStar, the OnStar virtual advisor. That was the first sort of big instantiation. Kind of grew from there to everything we know about AI virtual assistants today.
Okay, I love that. It's great seeing where things were back then, and then that perspective of where we are now, right? I still tell people about, I had this phone with a long cord, and I actually used to have to walk from one room
to the other. Of course you did. The longest cord you could put. Well, remember in the car at that time, all we had was like a Motorola flip phone, and so all you could do was talk, right? All you could do was talk.
We didn't even have that. You said in like late 90s. No, I don't even think we had that then. I think
we did have that.
We did at that point.
We had Motorola flip phones, but no smartphones. They weren't smart. You could just make a call, right? So that's where we started, and I went on to continue to work in and around what we call applied AI field. And there's sort of two areas of AI. There's the real geniuses that are 1,000 times smarter than I am that develop the mathematical algorithms for neural nets and deep learning and all the other things that we're using today and LLMs, et cetera, right? Mm-hmm. So while I understand those basic concepts, I'm not there creating those algorithms and making them work. So it's amazing to have those math PhDs really doing that, right? And computer science PhDs. On the other hand, we have applying that. How do we apply this cool stuff all the way through to our business, right? So when we developed the AI virtual assistant, we didn't have to develop speech recognition. There was an engine we could use. We had to make it better for our purposes, but we had to apply that in a big network, in a big system, right? And so I've been on the applied AI side, which is, hey, there's this cool new algorithm. What could we do with it to impact our business, including every entrepreneur business? When we talk about generative AI and LLMs, we'll talk about that. But I've really been focused on that, and I think that's where all the interesting work is. I mean, it's fascinating to go develop these algorithms, but then there's thousands of places you can use them, and how do you best put them to use, and how do you make money on that, right? Including, there's no reason why I can't build out AI to tell me which businesses to buy in an LBO with the best return. For sure, I could do that.
So can I get you to do that for me, please, or something?
Yes. That costs real money, but yes, I mean, that's an obvious place that you would go back and research the history of LBOs. You'd look at thousands and thousands and thousands of buys and the outcomes of those, the ones that had a bigger outcome than they were bought at, the ones that had failures, the ones that burned under the weight of the debt, et cetera, right? And then you have AI look at all existing companies that may fit sort of in that mold and recommend the ones that would have the best return.
Wow, that's definitely. I'm ready for that, right?
Yeah. So that's how you really make money.
There's a young man. I think he's about 30 or 32 years old. His name is Shunsaku Sagami. He's the youngest billionaire in Japan. and he started out in acquisitions, and then realized that he could create a platform, an AI-based platform, to help connect other buyers to the baby boomers who are retiring and don't have succession plans.
Right.
So he became a billionaire in the last 5 years from creating that platform, just because
Fabulous. And probably taking a piece of that connected,
Of course.
Right. Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And you would need AI because it's a big data problem. You have too many potential people retiring and too many people that don't have a strategy to pass it on to their kids, and too many businesses and all these things, right? And so that's a big data problem, and you want to use AI there. But there's a lot of things we can use AI for that you don't need to go out and spend what he probably spent, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars to build a neural net around that. You don't have to do that now because there's almost free tools that you can use to impact your business today.
Gotcha. So can you go back for a second?
Yeah.
There's generative AI. And what's the other type? And can you just sum up the two different?
The two things I talked about, but then I'm going to separate it up. Two things is applied AI, where we're going to apply the algorithms, whatever they are, to our business, or to a new business, or to a brand new feature, or to a brand new company, right? And then there's algorithm development, very smart people. We don't want to go there. So we're not here to talk about algorithm development. It's brilliant what people are doing. And like I said, way over my head. But let's apply it to different fields. I don't care if it's construction or retail or tech or marketing or sales or customer support. There are things we can do today to make our businesses better and more productive. And so some of those are that you can apply right away, like right after this show. You listen to the show, you can go right on.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason you can apply them is because of this sort of newer, over the last 4 or 5 years, but most people only heard about it over the last year, called generative AI, like OpenAI's ChatGPT. And these are super interesting because they're very accessible. So AI before that really required engineers to say, how do I leverage this, and how do I build the big data set, and then how do I build a neural net from that data set, right? And then how do I access that neural net and inference from it what I should do, right? How do I look for those patterns? That required real effort. And now we've got this thing that speaks English. And you go, well, that's cool. The other things didn't speak English, really. This speaks English. Right. So when you start talking about ChatGPT, you go, it speaks English. I can deal with this, right? That is the way I speak. So you don't need code. You can actually just talk to it. And you have to learn some tricks, but nevertheless. So I think that's really a fascinating time. And while we have been using AI, actually it's been under development in various ways since the 40s and 50s and 60s. And we've been using it heavily for 20 years. Today, we have an English interface, and that's pretty amazing.
Ooh, I love it. So I know I'm jumping ahead, and then we're gonna bring it back, but
that's okay. We'll bring it back later.
When you just made that time period, analysis, and say the last 20 years, what do you think will happen in the next 20 years?
Well, look, the AI tools that we're being given today are very much like tools we were given in the mid-'80s. And I'll give you an example. We were given Excel, and all of a sudden we had spreadsheets. And none of us ever had to do long division again. Ever. Maybe to teach our kids if we can remember how to do it. So here we were taught this really great skill and spent probably half a semester on it in 4th or 5th grade or something of long division. There's a machine that does long division for us, okay? We don't think anything of that anymore. We think nothing of going to Excel and have it do highly complex math and tables and charts and graphs and everything else. We don't think anything of that, right? It's fine. It's what we do. But at the time it came out, if you were in finance or accounting, you thought it was the end of your life because you thought what you did was add columns and rows. But it turns out, no, you're a strategic finance and accounting person that has to analyze the outcomes, and you no longer have to add, subtract, or do long division ever again in your life, ever. So now it took us 40 more years to solve language because it's much harder. And we could talk about how that got solved, but it took a long time. So now we have, for the first time, a language tool. Literally. Now we've had spell check, we've had grammar check, but now we have a real language tool. Like I can ask it a question and it'll come back. It's not always right, so it's not like math, but it'll come back with something interesting and a whole list of things. And I'll talk to people about how they can use that. This is fascinating. So first of all, in the next 5 or 10 years, it's just going to be like Excel to us. It's just a tool. Of course, we have a language tool. And many people who, sit down and write long prose today, say a blog post, or say summarizing. If you used to summarize this, maybe you didn't summarize your podcast, but if you used to summarize your podcast and take notes and listen again, and forget it, just go speech to text, feed it into a large language model and say, summarize this 1 hour conversation, and boom, there it is, done. Okay, that is a huge savings to you. And by the way, you added probably very little value in summarizing this entire 1 hour talk, with all due respect, because you just got better things to do in your life, and there's a machine that can summarize it. Let the machine summarize it. Let me go back a long way in history. When the wheel came out, people who were carrying things on their back looked and said, that's it. Life is over. I'm done. I'm done. Life is over. Except the wheel changed everything and made everybody more productive. The ATM came out. If you were a bank teller, you said life is over. That's it. But bank tellers didn't decrease in employment until the last 5 years or so, when we got check cashing on our phone. It took that long. The ATM was out for 40, 50 years, right? So this is really fascinating. So humans have been through this cycle over and over and over again with automation. We put computers on people's desktops, and that's back in the 80s, really, and early 90s, and people got computers on their desktop. And of course, assistants, real assistants, secretaries and all that, sort of those big secretarial pools kind of went away. All of a sudden, you had to do your own writing, even though we don't type. But you learned how to do it. You learned how to do your own spreadsheets. You did all these things, and it made the business more productive. Made everybody, their own secretary, basically. So I look at this and say, everybody, calm down. This is a great time in history. We finally have a language tool that can help us in 5, 10, 20 ways in all of our businesses right now.
I love that.
5, 10 years from now, it's just a regular tool, and it'll get much better.
Definitely. And before we get into, because there's a topic that I noticed that you really focus on, is the end of human labor, right?
Yeah.
And when that would potentially come, and how you break it down into kind of like the stages of it. But before we get into that, when I was still in corporate America, there was a concept that was really the buzzword: big data.
Yeah.
Right? So big data was the thing, and hey, through big data we can make better decisions in our our business. How does big data apply with AI? Is it just it or what?
The thing is big data really became analysis of lots of data, and ultimately that became neural nets for the most part. I mean, that's what you're going to go build today, right? We had lots. By the way, there are hundreds of algorithms in the AI and machine learning world. Okay, so it isn't just one or two. There's hundreds you can choose from. But in today, if you have really well categorized data and you want to learn from it, I would, I'd probably learn, right? Essentially build a neural net around that and around what I would learn. So if I've got all this data on patient outcomes, that might allow me to better understand the leading cause of cancer, for example, right? I might be better if I have all that data. In fact, I might even be able to look at what medicines work and didn't work, right? So those are big data problems, but today we would solve them with certain types of machine learning that are really good at that. And then there's specialized companies that do that. Like Pattern Computer, a company I'm involved in there in the Pacific Northwest. And they have designed a very special kind of AI that specifically looks for very specific patterns. So which pharmaceuticals might actually work to cure this kind of cancer? And that's a big data problem, but it's a really big problem. It's a hard problem to solve. And I'm looking for really special patterns, right? So there's people who really dive in and develop their own really cool algorithms around this as well.
I love it. Now, here goes I like to always focus on problems more than anything. And we're not going to pop yet. However, your decision-making is only as good as the data that you are given. Mm-hmm. How does AI handle that? Okay, big data, great. We can take all this data, but is there any way to verify, is this data correct before?
Great. It's only as good as the data it's given and any other learning you've given it, right? So that's it. That's all you get. And that's true with generative AI or big data AI, if you will, or anything. If you have trained, for example, on 10 faces, I want to do facial recognition, and I trained on 10, and then after it's trained, I show up with an 11th, it cannot identify that. Now, it might try to fit it in and say, well, you must be Kevin because I only know 10 things in the world and the closest match is Kevin, therefore it's Kevin. That's a lie, but it's the best it could do based on the data training that it had, right? Didn't have a large enough data set. So you want really large data sets. And the way you get really good at something is, Facebook trained up a neural net on facial recognition now, whatever it was, 10, 15 years ago. And if at first it freaked us out, it was recognizing my mom, it was recognizing my friends. It's like, whoa, right? And it's because they had billions and billions and billions of photos to train on. So you had a huge data set to go train on. And then it got pretty good. It got really good. And now, image recognition is exceptionally good with AI today. Much better than humans' ability from a distance. A fox, a dog, a variety of things start to look the same, right? Well, AI is going to be very good at picking out those nuances and probably being right there.
But do you foresee it reaching a point where it will be able to say, hey, this isn't part of the 10 faces you gave me, but this does look like another face. So we need to figure out what this is. Do you find it going that route, or is it going to more just hit a stump from what was programmed in or what?
So basically we set thresholds, right? So you can set thresholds that say, if the match isn't this good, reject it and say, I can't match. So we can already do that today. Not everybody does that. Depends on how they set it up. But there are thresholds, and you can set all kinds of thresholds to say, I don't have a match. It's not a problem, right? So we can do that. I think what you do see, though, is when you get to these large language models, the largest one being GPT-4, and potentially being trained on upwards of 1 trillion phrases, trillion sentences, trillion tokens. It starts to know everything, because everything we ever put on the web, it has ingested, right? Everything. And so there isn't a bigger data set than all of the human corpus of knowledge, which is mostly all on the web. Some people would say, of course it isn't, but large enough, right? Much larger than the Library of Congress. And so the darn thing is learned than the Library of Congress, or what?
I was going to say much larger than my World Book encyclopedias.
Yes, 1 billion times larger, right? So since it has ingested so much, it starts to probably have an answer for everything. It doesn't say it's right, just as we would not be right. It does have sort of a perfect memory, but the algorithm isn't perfect, because what these algorithms do is try to place word after word after word based on the last word and based on your request, right? Your prompt. And so it could go down a road and give you the wrong answer. And I'll give you an example. I asked one of these models, who killed George Washington? Now, who shot George Washington? Sorry. And nobody ever shot George Washington. But there is a fiction novel where George Washington does get shot by William Tryon. And so, of course, since I asked who shot George Washington, the answer is William Tryon shot George Washington. Of course he did. Now, what I didn't go back and ask, and you should, is did this appear in a fictional novel, or does it appear heavily in literature, including the newspapers of the day? And then it might come back, no, it appears in one place in one novel, but you asked me who shot George Washington, and I only have one answer, and this must be the answer. Because there's very little written on the web that says no one shot George Washington, right? Yeah. So it didn't know, and it didn't, it doesn't have any, we can't anthropomorphize these things. It doesn't have any, sort of reckoning of that. It just says, well, here's the best sentence match to your query. And in that novel, it is correct. Within the context of the novel, it's 100% correct. It failed to tell us it was in the context of the novel.
So you're telling me that I have to deal with digital versions of my kids, is what you're saying? Because they like to, omit certain things. Yeah. You didn't ask that. You asked me that.
You didn't ask that. That's right. You said, are you going out tonight? I said, yes. You said, great. Okay. I didn't know you were flying to New York. Well, you didn't ask.
You didn't ask.
Going out. Sayonara.
Exactly.
Be back in a week, Yeah.
So as we're digging now, making our steps towards that whole thing with, of course, human labor being outdated eventually. let's start talking about the advanced robotics.
Yeah.
Right? What's your expertise in that, and how are you seeing that paired with AI?
So what's interesting with robotics is some of robotics, all of robotics is not keeping up with how fast AI is moving. And that's because robotics is based on physical robotics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Software robotics, but physical robotics is based on solenoids and motors and things like that. And they haven't changed in 100 years. Mm-hmm. You know, they just basically work the same. So what we're doing is we're putting much more knowledge into these machines, and they can do a lot more. So if you were using a robot on a manufacturing line today versus 10 years ago, the image recognition and the resolution that it has is orders of magnitude for recognizing, say, a defect, right? Orders of magnitude above. However, the arm that reaches out to grab the thing and toss it out, you know, fundamentally that technology hasn't improved in decades, right? Mm-hmm. So you can make it go faster. There's a bunch of things you can do, but those physical kinds of things are limited by, you know, moving physics, right? Moving an arm that weighs X amount, and you need X amount of force to do that, and pull it back and all the other things, and acceleration. And, you know, you just get into physics, right? And software isn't driven by physics. That's the interesting thing, right? I can make software way smarter, and it's not a physics problem, right? It's just how much cloud capacity do I have? How much money do I have? But it's not a physics problem. In the end, if I have to move something, I have a solenoid, and I had that same solenoid basically in the 60s. And it probably hasn't improved much, actually. You know, that's a coil around a magnet kind of thing, right? There's not, it just, you know, you put electricity in, it goes like this, and you pull it, and it pulls like this. That's all it does. And it's worked that way for decades and decades and decades, maybe upwards of a century. So we're limited by that. That said, what everyone wants when we talk, I mean, real robotics is actually working all over the place in Amazon warehouses, which are highly automated now, on manufacturing lines. So we use tons of robotics. But when people think robotics, they go, oh, well, when can I have a robot that cooks my meals, cleans, etc.? Now, we've had, you know, floor vacuuming robots for about 20 years, which is really interesting. They've gotten better. But not markedly so. I mean, they vacuum a little better, and they find their way, and they get themselves out of corners better. But basically, again, you're limited by how can I pull a vacuum in something X size, right? And all the AI in the world doesn't improve the vacuum. It improves the ability to go around and figure out where it's been. It improves the fact that it won't vacuum up the cat. That's good. But it doesn't change the fact that it's still a vacuum. And I have to pull a vacuum. So you're stuck there, right? Same true with kitchens. So we all want the robot chef at a low cost, And the problem is our kitchens are meant for humans. And this is one of the problems. So people see these humanoid robots, and you stop and go, well, why do I have to build a humanoid? Well, if you want to go into a kitchen and use the kitchen, I would need a humanoid robot, because everything is meant for the relative height of a human with arms up here and legs down there. That's what it's meant for, right? So now you have to build a humanoid robot. And yes, Tesla's building one, and there's many other companies who built them. It's very hard to get the darn thing to even stand up straight, right? We just had to do that. And over the last 5, 6, 7 years now, we've got robots who stand well and balance, and Boston Dynamics, Boston
IT ones.
Yeah. They're very, very cool, right? So lots of cool stuff happening there. We are making them intensely smart. But not so actually we have everything we need today, I think, to make a fully capable kitchen robot, for example, except one thing. It'll cost billions of dollars to develop it. And then when you've got it with a number of solenoids, motors, and ability around your kitchen and everything else, the robot might cost $5 million. Okay, so there's no market for a $5 million robot that costs several $billion to develop. That's the problem. Why does it cost $5 million? You know how many solenoids, motors, and everything else have to be on the thing, and safety devices? It has to open every cupboard. It has to be able to go way behind and grab that, that spice from way behind something, right? I mean, and it's got to go to the fridge. It's got to evaluate what's in the fridge. It's got to order stuff that isn't there. I mean, a lot of AI involved, a lot of imaging involved. It's very cool. We all want it. We will probably see it in our lifetime. But it's just a cost problem now. It's not a technology problem. It's going to cost a lot. Everyone wants one for like $10,000, not $10 million. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been on I can't remember the name of the ship, but there was a cruise ship on the Royal Caribbean, I think, and it has like the robots that operate the bars completely.
Oh yeah, the bar robot. It's kind of on a thing, and it's very limited in what it can do, but everything's in the right place, and it gets it, and it'll make a drink.
The right place. Exactly.
And it'll make a drink in the bar. That's right. It'll make all kinds of drinks, right? But that's actually pre-programmed with a rule database. It's actually pretty. There's kind of not much AI there, but.
Sure.
But because you can open drink book and you've got the rules to make the 500 most popular drinks and you're done, right?
And that's easy. Yeah. Okay. So now more advanced programming, more AI in bipedal robots that eventually will be for the kitchen. But this sounds like we're going towards Skynet now.
Of course we are. Go rewatch the movie. Well, again, we're going to look at a robot in our kitchen someday. Maybe it's 10 or 20 years from now and go, well, of course we have a robot in our kitchen. It's just another tool. It's just another tool. We have a refrigerator in our kitchen. Do you consider that a tool? No. Except when the refrigerator showed up and it wasn't an ice box or a salt box and you just plugged a thing in the wall and it kept everything cold, that was a miracle to those people, right? That is absolutely a miracle. There's a great question here. Yeah. When might the cost of robotics for manufacturing beat the cost of labor in predominantly manufacturing countries like China? In fact, that's already happened in a lot of fields because what's happened is the cost of labor in China has continued to go up, okay? But the cost of, and it's up, 10x over 20 years or something like that. But the cost of robotics, line robotics, right, has continued to go down with great accuracy on what it can do on the line. So it is crossed enough that in some fields, people are bringing their plants back to the U.S. and that's called onshoring. So there's a great push for onshoring for lots of reasons. Now, the funny thing about onshoring is when they took it offshore 20 years ago, the plant used to have 200 people in it. When they bring it back, it only has 20 because it's full of robots. Yeah. However, there's savings because I don't have the geopolitical risk. I don't have transportation and shipping, all of those things, right? I don't have IP leakage. So there are real reasons to bring things back. And we're seeing that big push from the U.S. government on semiconductors, of course, a huge push, an almost $100 billion push to bring semiconductor manufacturing back here because we sort of let it go for 10 or 15 years from being the top of the world to we'll send it all to Taiwan and other places. And it turns out, again, geopolitical risk. This is not a good thing, right? It turns out not a good thing and critical to everything we do in this country. And we don't make we invent and create and design the semiconductors, and then we have them made, elsewhere, South Korea and Taiwan primarily, and maybe some in China. That might not be the best thing. And this is a little bit political, but one thing we learned certainly in electronics and semiconductors and also in software is we were doing business with Russia for 30 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we knew they were sort of communist and sort of run by people, but whatever. We thought it was fine. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, boom, if you were doing business in Russia, it's over. So McDonald's, simplest thing in the world, had 1,200 locations in Russia, had to close them all by government mandate. Can't do business with Russia anymore. And that's that. So there are real geopolitical risks in doing business with communist countries, basically, right? And we only have a few communist countries left, but Russia and China would be the two big ones. Yeah. And we do a lot of business with China. Most of the other ones we don't do business with, right? We don't do business with Cuba and some others, but China we do. And so, our way of life is democratic society. And that allows anyone who's listening to the show to go build a business any way they want to and keep all the money they can except for what they got to pay in taxes, right? That's amazing. You don't realize how many countries you can't do that in. Or how about get intellectual property protection through our patent service, right? Or get copyright protection through the USPTO. This is amazing, right? Copyright office. This is amazing. But, you can't do that in every country. And so when we do business with countries that don't align with any of our values, including a free society that can build any business they want, anyone in this country, if they really want to be a billionaire, could somehow hit on better ideas than I've hit on and become a billionaire, right? So, and you can do that in Japan. It's a free country. China, pretty tough. You get big enough, the government takes you over, right? Bad things happen. So that's the funny thing. So be careful. I'm not saying there's no business in China, and this isn't anything against the people of China who we love. This is a government that is communist, like Russia. And when you do business in those areas, someday they may nationalize that business. They may steal the business. Who knows? It's not. They're not governed by our rules. Yeah. Right. So I don't know. AI can't fix that. But there you go.
No, that makes sense for sure. So now, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner or an aspiring entrepreneur, what are opportunities for people to get into the world of AI? Is it more about just looking at whatever business you want to get into and then seeing how AI can help it? Or is there a specific route in AI that you can also?
There's both, right? I mean, if you are a technologist, you could start a business focused on doing something unique in AI or leveraging large language models in new ways and building stuff around them. If you're not a technologist, there's still tremendous opportunity for you to leverage AI in your existing business or leverage it in a brand new business where your competitors are not. And the businesses that leverage AI will absolutely win. Absolutely win. Okay. So you have to leverage AI. And those who don't are going to lose to competitors who do. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I've got a business and I've got to get information out there about my business. So maybe I do blog posts. It's a very common way to build up your SEO and SEM, right? You've got things that you can bring people to. You got advertising you can bring people to. People can find it through Google, but you got to keep making content. Well, today, if you're writing a blog post, you might say, well, this week, I'm going to write a blog post. You spend a day or two on it, and then you edit it, and you run it around the organization, and right? So, interesting. But now with a large language model like ChatGPT, you could write a blog post about every 20 seconds. Well, really, it'll take 20 seconds to generate, and then you're going to spend probably 20 minutes editing it and push it out. Now, let me give you an example. Maybe I used to do one a week, but now I can do one an hour, let's say. I am now 40 times more productive than I was an hour ago. 40 times. That is 40x your brain power. 40x your brain power. If I am 40 times smarter, I have amplified my brain by 40x. This is amazing, right? And so you don't want your competitor to do that. So I'm giving you a simple example, right? You can have it write ads. You can have it suggest where you should find your customers. You can have it suggest how you differentiate your product, right? So these are things you can do with a little bit of thoughtfulness around prompting. You can also ask it, you can say, look, I'm having this argument with my husband or wife, and this is what they said. What should I say back in order to save the marriage?
Oh, I'm getting on it right today. I'm going to use it.
Trust me, it will come back unapologetically with far better ideas than you were about to have. Because you at that time are now disconnected from your frontal lobe, but it's fully connected, and it's going to give you advice as a good, sane psychologist would do, right?
I love it. So quick wordplay. If I say to you Kleenex, what do you think of?
What do I think of? I think of immediately I think of a time I gave a talk on disruptive innovation and used Kleenex as an example on how they haven't really disrupted Kleenex ever. It's still Kleenex.
Okay. All right. Let's pause there. So if I say to you rollerblades, what do you think of?
People on rollerblades.
Okay. So here's why I'm asking that.
Yeah.
Kleenex is a brand name.
Yes. Oh, I say fair.
Right?
Fair.
Rollerblades is a brand name. It's actually inline skates, right?
Right.
So right now, when everyone is thinking of AI, ChatGPT.
Right. I got it. Oh, there's many. There's Bard. There's the Microsoft version. There's Llama from Facebook. There are actually hundreds of models. There are 300,000 data models that you can embed with, say, ChatGPT or something on what's called Hugging Face. So everybody's participating in this in many, many ways, right? But the largest model for sure is GPT-4, and sort of the free one that everyone can get access to is like 3.5, and it's pretty darn good. So we did have a question right there, kind of related to this, which is, are there Are there simple are there existing, thank you for putting that up, are there existing programs and tools that allow non-developers to build new and unique AI tools? Things are getting better. There are 1,000 startups a week in the AI space. They're not all going to make it, but I've seen several startups now working on sort of UIs to allow you to leverage these tools in better ways for your own use, right? Or for a new UI or for a new application. Today, if you really want to leverage it, like I want to leverage GPT-4 and I want that to be the core of something else, I'm probably going to write thousands of lines of code outside of that to get it to behave the way I want to. And I'm going to use a process called embedding, which is a cheat. Basically, I can't change the LLM model itself of these trillions of words, trillions of phrases. What I want to do is I want to prompt it in a way that forces it to give me the information back in the way that I want it, or the way that I want it. And so behind the scenes, you're pre-prompting it in a very unique way. It's called embedding. And so that actually takes programming today. It's getting better, but you need things like Pinecone and other tools. You need a slew of tools, actually. You need like 4 or 5 tools to go do this. But I'm seeing more companies, startups, come up with ideas around that to try to do it. But today, you'd probably need to be a programmer. But you can leverage AI today in your business, no matter what. Sales, marketing, sales training. How about customer support? I mean, lots of ways. And just to give you advice in your business, as the owner, as the entrepreneur in a business, I need advice all the time. So please give me advice, right? Please give me advice.
Definitely. So we used to have like dashboards when I was in corporate America, and it would just bubble up certain data to you. But now you can have AI that can actually give advice based on specific data sets.
I can put in tables and charts and graphs. I can put in things. It's multimodal. GPT-4 is multimodal. So I can put in a table and say, analyze this table, a big Excel spreadsheet. Analyze this spreadsheet and tell me what the most important takeaway is. And it'll take a shot at that.
Oh, I like that. I haven't even thought about that and to try that. So it would, oh, wow. Okay. So it's basically saying, hey, tell me what you think about this.
Right.
I like that. Very interesting.
Right. And these questions are good and the comments are good that are coming up. What's interesting is one could actually use ChatGPT right now to, copying some of what I'm saying and saying, summarize this, and it'll go boom, boom, boom. It'll do it for you. It's, with all due respect to the really good people behind the scenes that are doing it right now that aren't going to go anywhere. But I'm just saying.
But it's true. It could easily, I could imagine it'll be listening to certain parts.
We can do that now.
It will pull it out, then put it up on the screen.
Right. We can do text to speech right now. And Zoom recently, just a few weeks ago, introduced their assistant. And it's in Zoom.
Today. I was like, what's this?
It's speech to text is what I meant. It'll do speech to text, and then it'll summarize at the end of the meeting for you. You go, wow, I never wanted to do that. I'm glad it does that, right? It's really fascinating. So
that's amazing that you brought that up. I literally saw that, and I'm on Zoom every day, but I just saw it today on there. I was like, wait a minute, what's this?
That's that. Now, you can also use ChatGPT or Bard. Both. Bard is free, right? Microsoft's version is free, Bing Assistant. You can use them right now to help you write ads for your business. Here is my business. I fully describe my business. I want to differentiate with new social media ads. Help me write 5 of them. It'll write 5 of them. Now, I'm not saying you use them or don't use them. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying there's ideas that you didn't have 1 minute before. Again, you're expanding your brain. In the end, you're still in charge, right? You're the robot overlord of this thing. You are in charge, but you're changing the outcome of your business simply by typing on a screen.
For now, until they decide to take over. I'm joking.
Like I say to everyone, do not hook the GPT to the nuclear arsenal. Other than that, probably fine. But I wonder if she's going to put that up on the screen. Do not hook GPT to the nuclear arsenal.
That's coming.
It's broken English like that because it's much more interesting that way.
Yeah, definitely. So the fears of AI overall. Right, and we've kind of been popping the whole scenario. We go along, but tell me the fears or how do you not retaliate, but how do you address the fears that people have?
Okay,
especially right now, the ability to fake like create fake videos that they
Sure.
call a deep fake and such things
sure.
like that.
Sure.
That's kind of running away right now. So how are we addressing that?
Sure. So first of all, the concept of a deep fake, that is, if I have enough video of you or pictures of you, I can make you say things you've never said, probably in your voice. In fact, certainly in your voice right now. Okay, that's all available. And you go, oh, that's spooky. Well, let's stop for a second. First of all, Hollywood's been doing that for 25 years. They could bring people back from the dead and put them back in a movie. And it didn't have to look like Weekend at Bernie's, okay? I mean, they could literally do that. So that kind of CGI, we've had the technology for years, except it used to cost millions of dollars to do it. Then it was hundreds of thousands. And now it's getting to where it costs nothing. That's what's scary, because you're democratizing access to what were tools that only Hollywood had. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be spooked the fact that we can, make Barack Obama say things that he didn't say. The movies could do that forever. But what we should be spooked at is now bad people can do it. Anyone can do it. There's enough video of you online where I can absolutely have you. I can actually put you in a place you've never been, saying things you've never said. Right? Now, the problem with that, we're going to get used to it. In fact, let me step back. I could already do that in Photoshop for the last 20 years, easily. I could take a snapshot of you, put you in a place you've never been, right? Put a caption under it, and people go, well, and you'd say, I've never been there. What are you talking about? I've never golfed on that golf course. You go, there he is, golfing on the golf course. Who's going to prove otherwise, right? So anyone could do that in Photoshop for the cost of Photoshop at $99 with some training in Photoshop. Well, now I can do it with just typing. I could say, place Beez here, blah, 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 place this picture here, da, 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 da. So I no longer have to put in the 10,000 hours to learn how to use Photoshop. I only have to be able to type text, and I can put Beez in a place he's never been. That means instead of 100,000 people being able to do that, everyone can do it, because all they have to do is type, right? And everyone can type. So we're democratizing access to these tools. We're democratizing access. In my keynote speeches, which I give 40 or 50 a year on AI, I use these examples to show, like, Alon talking in my voice, and my voice reading an entire book, except it's a clone of my voice. It's a digital clone. The digital clone is so good. It is uncanny. In fact, all these people who read, I'm going to read you have these voice books, audio books, right? Okay. And all of a sudden, I really would not, I can have an instant audiobook in my voice right now. Instant audiobook, my voice, and I don't need to sit in a recording studio for 2 days and do it. I don't need to read the book. There's text, there's my voice, done. It takes less than a minute to make a model of your voice.
Wow. I was watching, it was like the hearings that were going on around AI, maybe like last year. Yeah. And one of the guys who was, I don't know if he was in the Senate or if he was the private sector, but he played a whole audio of himself explaining the dangers of AI.
Yeah.
And he was like, here, I'm going to explain it all for you. And then he played it. And then at the end, he said, well, I'm sure most of you thought that was actually me, but I actually asked, say ChatGPT to create a presentation on what I would typically say about the use of AI.
Yeah, you have to use a voice cloner, but yes, that's right. And it isn't you. Well, look, I wouldn't wait for Congress to do anything, because they can't even elect a leader, right? They're just a complete mess, the whole thing. But that said, we've had fakes, we've had fake Photoshops, we've had other fake stuff. It's just going to be more, and it's going to be more in the hand of bad guys. And we're going to always have to question now, can we believe what we're seeing, right? We're going to have to question it. So for much of our life, we literally believed what we saw. We didn't know. Now we know that pictures can be faked, and we've known that for a while. So we always had questions around pictures, but video, and voice, that was real. But now video and voice are not real. So we're going to have to bundle them in with the Photoshop pictures and say, I can't trust any of these things. Actually, I don't know if Beez actually said that.
Yeah.
But this afternoon, I can make you say things you would never say, and then send them to your wife and see how that goes.
Oh, wow.
I won't, but I can.
You can. It immediately made me think of was it Orson Welles that wrote?
Yeah, sure, 1984.
No, I'm sorry, no. So 1984 with Big Brother, no. But I'm talking about who was it that wrote the aliens that were attacking, and then it was a radio show, and then everybody in the
yeah, of course. Oh, that was Orson Welles did the radio show,
Orson
right?
Welles,
Yeah.
Too, right? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. No, that's true. That was. We'll think of the name.
What is it called again? I can't remember.
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds, right? Yeah,
and people heard it, and the radio show was so convincing they thought it was really happening.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is going to be really convincing, but we're not going to believe any of it anymore. We're going to say everything can be faked very, very easily.
So we'll be persistently doubting everything, I think.
Persistently doubting everything. Yeah, it's going to, and look, it is. So people say, well, we're going to develop AI, and in fact, I'm here in Rochester, and I was looking at some technology where they've developed AI at a university at RIT to help detect deepfakes. But the problem is, we have this concept of a GAN. It's a type of neural net that kind of learns from itself and learns to get better based on a variety of inputs, right? It's an adversarial network, a generative adversarial network. And if you make the adversary these detectors, eventually you'll make AI that escapes all the detection. It just fixes the things that it keeps detecting. And so my theory, not yet proven, my theory is we will never have AI that can detect deepfakes. We have it for now because there's still a few aberrations, but in the next few years, the AI that makes the deepfakes learns from the algorithms and it keeps learning forever until you can't outrun it. It wins.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's a lot to think about, right? So now, wow, just thinking about that is kind of crazy. But let's go into your model now. The model of it's kind of like that pyramid and the phases of the human workforce.
Sure.
And how that will become outdated. Explain that.
Well, look, we've been mostly working, since humans were around, hunter-gatherers, and continuing to and build shops and farming and all the things, right? Yeah. And we've sort of been known by our work. But there may be a time, certainly first of all, by 2050, all the tasks we do will be automated. That doesn't mean we won't have work, but the things we do today, we're going to be doing different things. Like if I said accountants no longer do long division, of course they don't. Like that's okay, but they do different tasks, right? Yeah. They do different tasks. And so their jobs didn't go away. We're going to still have jobs, but there may be a time when the productivity is so high from leveraging AI that we can go to 4-day work weeks, and maybe we can go to 3-day work weeks, and maybe we can go to 2-day work weeks. We're still going to have to work. We're still going to have to make decisions. We're still going to be sort of the robot overlords, but we might not be as shackled to our work as we have been, right? Because we've been, I years ago, I don't know, some of my first early talks 15 years ago on AI, where I would use this as an example. I'd say, Jesus had a father. His father was Joseph the carpenter. We actually have no idea what his last name was. We just know he was a carpenter. It's Joseph the carpenter. And we do that because he was so affiliated. Most people were so affiliated with what they did in town. It's Joseph the carpenter. Okay, guess that's what it is, right? Yeah. And so it's Beez, the business buyer podcast guy. We don't know what his last name is. It's not builder. It's not business. It's just Beez. Yeah. So we've been so tied and even look at a party. What do people do? They walk up. Hey, I'm Kevin. What do you do?
What do you do? First thing you
do. Really? Is that who? How about who are you? Yeah. What makes you up? I mean, nobody asks those questions because you'd go, "You're weird. I'm going to run." Yeah. So what do you do? But there should be a time when we're not that shackled to our work. When we go, "Yep, I've got this work and I manage these robots and these AIs and stuff and they've increased productivity 500x over where we were 30 or 40 years before. So clearly I don't have to work 40 hours a week or 60 or 80, whatever it is. But I do have to still go in and pull things together. That's what I think will be out some decades.
I like that. That's another perspective to really take, because most people are, focused on, oh my God, we're going to lose our jobs and, it's going to be crazy. But as you were saying it, I kind of related it to self-driving cars. So you're in your Tesla, it's driving, it can drive on its own, but it'll notice that you're not paying attention and say, hey, keep your eyes on the road.
Yeah.
Or, hey, can you just have your hands close to the steering wheel?
Right,
so you're still the driver overlord.
Yeah.
But I don't have
there will be a day that you get in, program the car, and off it goes, and it'll just take you there, right? Yeah. You'll still be the overlord because it's taking you where you want to go, right? Yeah. And maybe where you want to stop for food or whatever you want to do. But you know, driving is a mundane task, and what's going to go away first are mundane tasks. And actually, the first tasks to be highly automated will be tasks we already sent overseas. You say, why is that? Here's the reason why. We sent overseas the tasks that we could not afford to do here, right? And so we said customer support. We're going to send that to China or India or Vietnam or wherever, and they've done a great job. This is not a knock on anything. It's just that made financial sense to do that, right? But we only went there because of cost. Like, instead of paying $20 an hour, I can pay $1 an hour. I'll go there. Great. So we gave them like first tier customer support. Okay. And in first tier customer support, there's 28 things you have to know for this refrigerator. I'm making it up, right? Fine. Well, we can certainly today create customer support agents out of AI that will speak to you, that will interact with you and answer those 28 things and probably 280 more. And so that goes from $1 an hour to 10 cents, you know, and that's a whole different thing. And now you're going, okay, that I'm clearly going to do that. And so the first jobs to be eliminated will be the ones we sent offshore. Another example, software QA. You know, we have all these QA people offshore, millions of QA people offshore writing scripts or testing software. But now we've got AI coming along that's going to test our software for us. I've been in that business for many years. And the first things that you're testing are the things that we sent overseas, not the really, really, really hard stuff that stayed here, military and things like that, but the sort of the easier, these web applications. Let's go test those, right? So those are the jobs that are most impacted. They won't all go away because you still need robot overlords. You need people to check on it. You need people to program it. You need people to be with it, blah, blah, blah. You need second tier support. Some people will graduate to another tier, but those are the ones.
Awesome. To jump into our pop now. Otherwise, we'll just keep going. So it's time that we pop the AI and advanced robotics industry overall. So what I'd love for you to explain is just highlight the top pro, why people should get into it, be involved with it as an entrepreneur or just as an employee, start learning about it.
Got it. Pro.
Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
Productivity, period, full stop. It's going to increase your productivity. It's going to amplify your brain. Nothing else happens over there without you directing it, right? Without even ChatGPT, or Bard, without you going, or Bing, without you going to it and saying, here's what I want in the style of, I want it this way, and this is its purpose. Boom, you go. And now you're going to edit it. And then you're going to post it. Okay, you are in charge. Okay, so it makes you way more productive than you were, frees up time, allows you to do things you couldn't otherwise do, right? Opportunity. Well, the opportunity is productivity all around, right? So there's a business opportunity here for you to get ahead of your competition, right? Whether you're starting a business, doing whatever. I don't know that you want to start a business in AI, but you could certainly start a business that highly leverages a variety of AI, including the ones that are instantly accessible without any programming, right? And that's ChatGPT, Bing, and Bard, right? Those are just instantly accessible. They're the lower end ones are free. So what can I do to improve my business productivity so that I just blow away the competition, right? Create me some posters I can put in front of the competition so that no one goes in their door. I'm making it up. It said, and there's a poster right out front. It says, COVID inside this door. Nobody goes in, right? No one goes in. I'm making that up, but that's an example. The plague behind this door. By the time they figure it out, they're out of business. They didn't know what that sign was. It was way out front. Problems. Obviously, the problems are if you can use it for good, someone can use it for bad. This is true with everything in the world. Okay, you have a car. Someone can use the car for good. Someone can use the car for bad, and they do. I'm going to use my car as a bomb and run into a building and blow it up. That's bad. That's a bad use of a vehicle. People still do it once in a while, right? So anything that is a productivity tool can also be used for bad, and these things can be too. Generate disinformation. Generate an email campaign that is phishing that is going to 100% fool people into thinking this is their bank. Wow. Okay, and it will generate a better one than you could have written. Now, you've been writing them for years if you're a bad guy, but why write them anymore? Let the machine write it, right? Now, they put guardrails on them to keep the major ones from doing that. But then there's open source models that if you're a little bit of a programmer, you can use. And once you use those, there's no guardrails, so you can do whatever you want.
There we go. So that's very interesting. Maybe that's something, because business, being an entrepreneur in general, is about solving problems. It's not about your product. It's about a problem that you're solving that somebody's willing to then pay you for.
Right.
I can easily imagine if I wanted to start a business from scratch, which I never do. I only want to acquire businesses. But if you wanted to start one from scratch and you really want to put in the work to really differentiate yourself and be a disruptor, maybe a business that can help to mitigate some of those problems with AI, a business that can help to validate information that AI provides to you and making sure that that data is correct.
There are models to do that. There's ways to do that, both with people, but also with other AIs to vote on how that AI is performing. And don't forget, most of these models are multimodal now. That means that I can ask it to draw something. I can ask it to create a photorealistic picture of me in a spacesuit. And I don't have to go take that picture anymore with a photographer, and I don't need costuming. There I am in a spacesuit in 6 different spacesuits. That's the one we're going to use for this ad. Done. No photographer, no artist, no graphic artist. I had it in a few seconds. Okay, everyone does PowerPoints. Everyone does presentations. Make me a presentation that says the following things, and I need the pictures to say this. And it'll do it, right? That's pretty amazing, right? All these things. So it is the best time to be alive.
Definitely. I love this. It's awesome. So the last question that we got for you today, Kevin, in business acquisitions. If I was to acquire one business right now that would set me up best to be to really be a player in the AI world, what type of business would you think that might be?
Well, to really be a player in the AI world, you would acquire a technology business that is leveraging AI or LLMs in a way that goes beyond being a feature, and it's actually a real product that solves a real pain point. A real product that solves a real pain point. These 1,000 AI companies starting up every week, 999 will go under, and that's because it's a cute feature, but it's not. It doesn't make a company, right? A feature doesn't make a company, or it's a feature that is looking for a problem, right? A real pain point. So you always want to solve pain points, and you want to acquire businesses that solve a real pain point. Or maybe they don't, but they have tremendous cash flow for some reason, and they want to retire, and that's great, right? There's all kinds of opportunities, but I'd be looking for things like that. There's certain areas that really are going to need a lot of effort in the next few years. So one of them would be taking care of older people. There's not enough people to do that, and there's not enough people to listen to their stories and sit there and interact with them. So you could see simple robots that just keep older people company and help them make sure that they take their pills on time and do things like that. So there's a couple of companies that are trying some things out there, but with an aging population, the numbers are the numbers, right? More people will be over 80 20 years from now than will be under 20. Yeah. So, well, that creates a problem because the people under 20 don't want to take care of the people over 80.
Oh, wow. You just hit a nerve right there, because I'm going through it, also trying to have to, take care of my father-in-law, and wow. I think you just gave me $1 million.
Yeah, it's a big idea, and even if it's just a robot that listens to their story, the same story, over and over and over again, that would be worth it. Like, you'd pay a lot of money for that, right? So there's lots of opportunities in automation. Look around. But if you want to buy something, then you're going to have to look for something that, for whatever reason, isn't doing well, but you think you can turn it around. Because in the AI world, you're not going to buy that company for cheap, right? Of course. So you're going to have to look. But anyway, I think over the next 20 years, big opportunities in taking care of old people. That eventually can't walk, eventually can't speak, but they need to be cared for, and they still can love, and they can still be happy. But there will not be enough humans to take care of them. It's not possible. So we got to figure that out, right?
Well said.
Great use of AI.
Well, Kevin Surace, you have blown my mind, and you have helped us to pop the world of AI and advanced robotics. I love it. Thank you so much. Where can people reach out to you, connect with you, or learn more from you at all?
KevinSurace.com. It's great. It's and Instagram at Kevin Surace, but yeah, KevinSurace.com, and reach out to me on LinkedIn if you're interested in keynotes for companies, whatever. LinkedIn is the way to find me.
Awesome. We'll make sure we put all of that information in the description. But thank you, Kevin. You have I love this conversation, man. You have enlightened us, and I believe that this is one of the most important topics that people need to focus on right now, because it's going to affect every aspect of our lives going forward.
Every aspect. Remember, these tools will be just like a refrigerator is to us. It's just going to be in our life. So it's all how you use it for your business and for your home, but for your business. Those who utilize this technology for their business will win, and they will crush those who don't.
Whew. Yes, sir. You heard it here first, everybody. Y'all already know what to do. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you are subscribed on all podcast platforms. But if you're watching on YouTube, turn on that notification bell too, so that you don't miss conversations like this, important information like this from Mr. Kevin Surace. Thank you again, sir. We really appreciate your time and your knowledge. And I look forward to, the days of Skynet and how we're going to handle it.
Well, Beez, here's the thing. In a future podcast, they won't know if it's really you or if it's an AI version of you.
There we go. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Right? Right? It'll be an AI version of you. You're off having a great lunch, and it's creating a podcast.
There we go. We're going to do that. Let's get
Thank you so much.
and I are working on it.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
All right, everybody. See you on the next episode of Entrepreneurship Exposed with your guy, Beez.